What's up, baseball friends? New month, time for a new prospect list. Been updating these monthly the past few seasons. May seem a little aggressive, not all that much is going to change from month to month, but it's fun, number one. I found that it's kind of helped me, I feel like, in terms of like big differences, I'm a little less reactionary from month to month now as well. And then it gives us an opportunity to talk about some guys, since I go to 50, that might not get talked about a ton. So, again, it's fun. So, don't take anything too seriously here. Just want to call out a couple things before we get going. Number one, I am not ranking guys in the Florida Complex League or the Dominican Summer League right now. I maybe will reassess that in the future. This is sort of something I'm testing out so far here in 2026. Let me know what you think about that. So the only guys in the full season minor leagues are getting ranked on my list. So that'll be a big difference between, here or what you see elsewhere. And then how I'm going through these is putting the players how I see them in tiers. I think that's a valuable thing to do because, you might see, I have one guy at 7 and another guy at 12, and you assume, that's a big split. He must think really differently about those two players. And that's just, if they're in the same tier, it's not, obviously they're ranked, but it's not that huge of a difference between them. Anyway. Getting into it, as you see here, the guys who've graduated from the list, technically Connor Prielipp graduates from prospect status like this weekend. So as of right now, he has not graduated, but it's days away. So the two items, it's tied to rookie eligibility is how I do it. At least I think most other places do that as well. So I think that's 130 at-bats for hitters, 50 innings for pitchers, which neither Prielipp nor Morris has hit yet. But for either hitters or pitchers, there's a 45-day service time, which Prielipp's about to hit this weekend. Morris has already hit that. So I'm going to go ahead and preemptively move Prielipp to my graduated. But just give him some credit. I moved him up to 5 last month. He would have been number 4 this month. And I know his last few outings have not been very impressive for the Twins, but for me, all of the things that I questioned and all of the things that I've knocked him and the reasons why I had previously ranked him lower, he is answering all those questions. Connor Prielipp has pitched on 4 days rest 3 times. I think he only did that like once or twice his entire minor league career. If he did it at all, I'm not sure. He has thrown 90 pitches 4 times. This so far with the Twins, he has thrown 80 plus pitches all 8 times that he's thrown for the Twins. So he did that twice last season. And I think it's showing that Connor Prielipp hasn't done those things. And I think that's why his last couple outings maybe haven't been as good. And the Twins do need to figure out, it's a tough situation with their rotation depth being what it is, but they do need to figure out how to get him some extra days rest. But again, he's answering the questions I had for sure. So, and then Andrew Morris, I've talked enough about Andrew Morris, but I'm enjoying other people enjoying Andrew Morris and the Twins. Recently threw 99 in an outing. So yeah, really enjoying him still. I hope he's with the org for a really long time. A guy I like a lot. Anyway, Walker Jenkins still number 1. Kaelen Culpepper still number 2, but I'm putting them in the same tier. I've had Walker Jenkins kind of alone in the conversation for number 1 prospect. I thought about putting Culpepper number 1, but I think that was maybe reactionary. Again, it's a guy who's not playing versus a guy who's playing really well. But in the grand scheme of things, if we're kind of projecting out, their first, how are they going to look 5 years from now, 10 years from now? I don't think too much has changed. Walker Jenkins is a 5-tool player. He has the tools. We're not seeing the power in his slugging, but the power in his exit velos has showed up. So I couldn't put Culpepper above him. But man, what else? What else can Kaelen Culpepper do? His chase rate is the only thing I can think about that's a red flag for him, and it's not even that bad. Red flags maybe saying that maybe that's taking it too far, but and he can just swing less, and it's not like he's hurting based off of chasing a bit more than he should. He has a 19.8 K percentage, so a sub 20 K percentage. In the International League, the league average is 23.5, so comfortably below league average strikeout rate still. His walk rate is still 12.8, which the league average is 11.7, so still above average walk rate. 12 home runs, a 947 OPS in May. So, and then again, this is his first 2 months of AAA. Baseball America has moved him up quite a bit. There have been graduations, so you got to keep that in mind. But on their preseason list, he was 74. They moved him up to 55, 45, and then for this month, he's at 34 on their top 100. So good to see him getting some love. I think it's well-deserved for Kaelen Culpepper. And playing a really good shortstop. I think if I'm remembering correctly, that's something that BA specifically called out was the improvements he's made at shortstop. And I thought he's been good his whole minor league career, but I do think we're seeing kind of like a cleaner, smoother, maybe more refined shortstop from him. And I think he's going to be the Twins shortstop for a while. Maybe he won't be, he might be in like the 15 to 20 range in terms of shortstops. I don't think like we're talking about, a multi-time all-star here. But that's a really valuable player, and he's been really fun to watch. Plays up to the competition, just continues to get better. I think he might even be underrated at this point, to be honest. Having an awesome year. Moving on to what I have is the second tier, which is 3 through 12. So not a ton separates these guys. I would say maybe there's a good argument to split this one at 3 through 8 and then 9 through 12 in a different tier. But when I was going through these, just, this time around, that's what felt comfortable to me. Some changes here, Hendry Rojas, after I thought about it, maybe this is me kind of thinking about Connor Prielipp too, in that maybe it's, maybe you don't knock guys for missing time and not being able to do innings, because at the end of the day, is it a big league arm? I think pitching is just getting more difficult all the time to rate. At Limestone Pipeline earlier this year, I think I did an audio post and talked about how are we underrating pitching in general? Because hitters are so much more commonly in the top 100, more commonly top lists. So it's something I've been thinking about a lot this year in particular. But yeah, Hendry Rojas has looked really good with the Twins. Unfortunately, he's on the injured list again. So that innings thing is still there. But, a big league arm is a big league arm. And especially if you can be, he could end up as a starter. He could end up as a high leverage reliever too. If that's a fallback, that's a huge plus. But yeah, would certainly rather a starting pitcher than a back end reliever. There's a reason why those guys get way more money in the free agent market and get way more in trades, but still valuable. You'll notice Eduardo Tait did fall back a couple spots. That does have more to do with the guys moving up. And Dason Hill, I know his numbers look terrible overall, but it's been he'll look like a future ace in one start and then look like he can't find the zone in another start. And I think he's going to iron that out. I have some confidence in that because we see it. We see it some outings. So he just needs to find some consistency. I think he's had some kind of finger blistering issues, much like Riley Quick has had some finger cramping issues. But so, at a certain point, if Dason Hill, if that's a regular thing where he's walking a ton of guys, that's going to be a deal breaker. But I'm still pretty excited about him. And again, he's only 20 years old. So keep that in mind. But Eduardo Tait, again, that's more guys moving up. But undeniable that Tait has not been impressive. Unfortunately, a 209 average with a 299 on base and a 384 slugging. That's a 683 OPS. He has a 26 K percentage in high A. 19-year-old catcher, you do have to keep that in mind. But, the Cardinals have a 19-year-old catcher who crushed the Midwest League earlier this year and is in Double-A. Struggling in Double-A, but in Double-A after crushing the Midwest League. So it's not like it's impossible. And again, we're talking about, top 100 guys. You can put them under a bigger microscope and be nitpicky on those guys. Where we're talking about at the top of a list that I think has a ton of major leaguers. But, it's undeniable that he's just not standing out. The numbers don't stand out, but if you're watching Colonels games, you would have to be told, oh yeah, that's one of the top prospects. It wouldn't be obvious on a game-to-game basis. So take that for what it's worth. Charlie Soto at number 9 still for me. He made his first rehab assignment game with Fort Myers, so it was just wonderful to see him pitching again. Topped out at 99.9 miles per hour in that outing as well. Didn't pitch great. His line wasn't great in his inning, but flashing some impressive velo in that one. Also still 20 years old. So Charlie Soto has all the time in the world. Brandon Winokur, another young guy, 21 years old in high A. He's got to be creeping up on double A any day here now. I think he's got he's got to be getting close to 200 games under his belt in Cedar Rapids. But pretty bad April and didn't want to react to that too much. And it's been a completely different story in May and going forward. A 922 OPS for Brandon Winokur in May. Struck out in 40% of his plate appearances in April. So that was a huge red flag, but that went all the way down to 21% in May. So nearly cut his strikeout rate in half just from 1 month to the next. And I think we can conclude that Brandon Winokur does not like playing in the Midwest in April, because if I remember correctly, he did the same thing last year. Makes sense. California guy. That can't be fun for him to endure some of that weather, but back on track in May, playing really well. Fun player too. And then want to call out, we're not just going to talk about every guy, but want to call out Hendry Mendez. Amazing. Incredible year. Incredible AAA run here. 463 on base percentage in his first 23 AAA games. Mind-blowing. Still, though, doesn't bring a lot of value. It's not like he's like super slow of foot or unathletic. But he's not the fastest guy. He's not going to really bring value on the bases, and he's limited to left field, I think. They've looked at him at first base some. He's not going to be a good left fielder. I do think he's looked better with the Saints, so maybe, as he moves up and gets some of these coaching improves as you move up too. So maybe some of the coaches in St. Paul and Wichita before that have helped him. But those are kind of the limitations with him I see. And again, Hendry Mendez at number 11, I think speaks more about the quality of the top of this system than necessarily what I feel about Hendry Mendez. So, and he's been awesome and really fun to watch for the Saints. Moving on over to the next tier, 13 through 18. These guys I have. Billy Amick. Who is this guy going to be is kind of what I'm trying to figure out. So we saw him as an on-base machine with Cedar Rapids who didn't hit for much power. Now we're seeing tons of power, but it is coming with he is walking a bunch still too, though. He has a 14.7 walk percentage in Wichita. And again, keep in mind too, this is his first exposure to AA. 30.9 K percentage though. So that's a big red flag for Billy Amick. Leads the system in home runs. Is a usable third baseman, especially in the minors. That bar is really high to clear in the majors. I don't think Billy Amick is a major league third baseman, but I don't think he's a plus first baseman right now, but I think there is a path to get him to being a plus defensive first baseman, I think. Leading the system in home runs, a 382 career OBP. He's exciting. Moving on over to the next tier, which is a little bit bigger, 19 through 26. Ben Ross is one of my bigger jumps. That's why he's in yellow there. Just what a season. He had completely fallen off my radar prospect-wise after stalling out in AA, 2 really uninspiring seasons, though he always played good defense. And maybe I should have valued that more, but, there has to be some offense with that defense. And my goodness, are we getting a lot of offense from Ben Ross this year? Check the Wichita box, which wasn't, his numbers were amazing, but, guy been in AA for that long, not too crazy. But in his first 30-some games with the Saints now, a 410 on base percentage and a 462 slugging while playing everywhere, playing all over the diamond. So yeah, that is eye-opening to me. And yeah, I think he deserves to be this again, a 410 OBP in AAA for a guy who brings a ton of defensive value and has a ton of defensive versatility. Now he's pretty maxed out in terms of his projectability. So, and I think I kind of give part of this is because I don't put those FCL and DSL guys in. But I kind of give these guys who are, you could say a lot of this about Fedco too, and Klein. A lot of these guys who are sort of fringy major leaguers, but are going to be major leaguers, I think. These guys have value. And then especially when you have them in your system, they have tons of value because you have options on those guys. So it's not like you're cornered into like a James Outman situation where you have to keep him on your major league roster. Having a ton of these guys with options, you can only fit so many of them on your 40-man roster, of course. But that's super valuable. I did move CJ Culpepper down. I think that is more to do with I had him too high. I think that's primarily what that is about. But it feels right for me that he is between John Klein and some of these, unproven but high ceiling 2025 draftees. So that's where sort of I felt comfortable with CJ Culpepper at this time. Maybe stretching back out. He had a really good last outing with the Saints. So we'll see what that develops. This tier, unfortunately, Eduardo Beltre got injured. He sacrificed his knee trying to make a crazy acrobatic catch in right field. So yeah, we are not going to be seeing him for a while. Unfortunately, a guy with crazy upside. Was really excited to see him this year. Tough. And some of this, it's Ricardo Olivar also in the last tier is injured. But on to brighter news. Jason Reitz and Matt Barr are pitching. They had started the year on the injured list. Reitz has 7 innings now with Fort Myers, 1 earned run, 3 hits, 5 strikeouts. Biggest thing though, 1 walk. He was like a 4 walks per 9 guy in college, and this is the guy who's 6'11", so you could imagine really easily his mechanics going especially wonky. But 1 walk in 7 innings, that's huge. That's I thought only 5 strikeouts. That's obviously not impressive, but I'm not super concerned about that with him. At this point, he's like handing the ball to the catcher. So I think at any point you are going to be able to get him to strike out more guys if you make him prioritize that. Right now, the priority needs to be throw strikes, don't walk guys. Matt Barr, he's made 2 rehab assignments with the FCL Twins. Hasn't really gone well, but just that he's pitching again is great. Then Eli Jones has definitely been getting a little roughed up since moving up to Double-A, but this is a guy who pitched really well, throwing 96. Is the system leader in innings pitched. So, sneaking him into my top 30, he's definitely caught my attention. Moving on down, these tiers get bigger as we go down because there's less that differentiates these groups. Had to move Kalai Rosario down. There's a good, argument that much like Culpepper, I just had him too high. But also the K percentage this year, small sample, keep that in mind. But it is up from 27.5, which isn't crazy high, but it's uncomfortably high for a guy that doesn't bring a lot of value elsewhere, to 35.9 so far this year, Kalai Rosario with a 35.9 K percentage. So that's pretty tough. That's pretty tough to swallow, but he's a streaky guy, so I could see him putting together a really nice, year going forward. Mike Paredes, obviously up with the Twins, made his major league debut, had a crazy good May for the Saints. 25 years old, so he's maxed. It's kind of like the Ben Ross. You could say a lot of the same things that like Mike Paredes is the Ben Ross of pitchers, essentially. But a guy who was pitched out of relief primarily in his minor league career, starting this year, 52 1/3 innings. That ranks 7th in the entire org. 7th most innings pitched including the major league guys for Mike Paredes. Very impressive. In his major league debut, he got 5 swinging strikes on his fastball. That's a 29% whiff rate. 1 outing, obviously, in kind of garbage time. Can't overreact to that. But, that's a higher whiff percentage than Joe Ryan has on his 4-seam fastball. So, I don't think that's going to be sticky. I don't think that's going to carry forward. But I think it's obviously a good first indication that, hey, this guy isn't just some quad A pitcher potentially. I think he's interesting, though keeping in mind I have him 32nd on my prospect list. So like I don't want to make it sound like I'm getting too ahead of ourselves here, but just a wonderful pop-up arm when in a situation where the Twins desperately needed someone like this to step up right now. So yeah, big ups to Mike Paredes. Another guy I really want to call out, these guys in green, by the way, were guys who are new to my list this month. They were not ranked last month, new this month. I want to call out Ramiro Dominguez, a 19-year-old guy playing with Fort Myers. I have him listed as a second baseman, but he's played all over the infield, has primarily played second, but also short and third base, even a little bit of first base. One of there are some encouraging signs coming. The Twins have really struck out in the international market of late. But there are some budding signs on Fort Myers. They have the youngest lineup in all of the Florida State League. And part of that is they have Quentin Young, too, who's really young. But three guys from Mexico, which isn't like the super hotbed. A lot more Dominican guys, a lot more Venezuelan guys than guys from Mexico. But whoever the scout is there has been doing a great job. Ramiro Dominguez from Mexico, Ramiro Villanueva, who's a pitcher from Mexico. He's looked good at times for Fort Myers, barely outside of my top 50. Jason Bass, also from Mexico with Fort Myers, a guy who probably should have made my top 50 after the May he had, but barely on the outside looking in. If those guys can keep it up, they'll also be in there. But anyway, Ramiro Dominguez is 768 OPS. Turned 19 on March 26th, too, so he's a young 19. Sub 20 K percentage and a above 10 walk percentage. So this is a guy who has an above average OPS for the Florida State League, a lower than average K percentage for the Florida State League, and a almost league average walk percentage as a baby 19-year-old, as a young 19-year-old. So you can't always play that game where, he's this age at this level, so he's going to, extrapolate out to this at this level. That mentality has blown up in my face many times at this point. But a 40 on my list, at 40th spot. So, we're not going too crazy about this guy yet, but definitely get Ramiro Dominguez on your radar. Keep an eye out for him with Fort Myers. He's been a fun player so far for them. And another nice development for the Twins system. And then in my last 10, another big range here. Justin Mitrovic keeps pitching well. He's new on my list, a 1.15 ERA, 35 K percentage with Fort Myers. Funky delivery. I don't think there's going to be much of a path for him as a starting pitcher moving forward, though I'm wrong about that sometimes, and everybody is. But I think this guy could be a pretty nasty reliever. Good changeup. I've enjoyed him so far. Garrett Spain, who's been a really shockingly good hitter. The Twins picked him up in the minor league phase of the Rule 5 draft. An 860 OPS in 2026. That's especially noteworthy because his career AA OPS now is only 656. That's in 267 career AA games. So it's been 2 months. Well, let's see if he keeps this up. I'd be really intrigued. He probably deserves for a look on the Saints, but how are you going to find any room on the Saints outfield right now? Even with Jenkins and Rodriguez out, there is not opportunities in that outfield. So kind of a tough situation to be in for him. Then Merritt Jones sneaks in my last spot, a guy the Twins clearly liked because they drafted him twice. I'd forgot. They'd taken him in the 20th round in 2024 and then took him again in last year's draft in the 14th round, despite him being a poor college pitcher. They obviously have seen some under the hood stuff from him. He was he had a couple of good spurts in the summer leagues, but a 6.73 ERA in 207 and third innings in college. So despite that, the Twins drafted him twice. And I think some of the things they identified that they maybe could help him with are turning up here. He only had an 18.5 K percentage in the early going, but his last 3 outings has struck out 32% of the hitters he's faced. So maybe there's something unlocking here with Merritt Jones, the very last guy on my list. So, again, not really pumping up the hype train yet, but another guy with Fort Myers to keep on your radar, keep an eye out for, Merritt Jones. So anyway, that wraps it up. let me know what you think about that. Anybody off the list that you're excited about, check out Limestone Pipeline. Lots of draft coverage coming up. But then after the draft, we are going to get together, me and Jamie, and update our site top 20. Be on the lookout for that. We are offering annual memberships now too, where there's a 20% discount on those. So I'm sharing a lot of highlights. And we understand not everybody's going to do that. You know, I can't support every creator I love on Patreon either. So we get that. You're watching videos to this point, you know, that's huge. That's helping my channel out a ton. So appreciate everybody for their support. And just have fun talking baseball with you guys in general. So we'll talk again soon.